What actually makes an ancient discovery interesting? Something you understand right away, or something that just doesn't make sense no matter how long you look at it? Most of us would pick the second, because the truth is, the things we can't explain are always the ones we love, and that's exactly what this video is about. Ancient discoveries that still no one can understand. So let's get started. Number 15. King Tutankhamun's death mask. There are thousands of things our ancestors have made, but few objects from the ancient world are as famous as the golden mask of the boy king. It's often seen as a symbol of power, forged with incredible detail and care. But there's a theory that complicates that image. Some experts think this mask may not have been made for Tut at all. Evidence suggests that parts of the inscription were altered by someone, replacing an earlier name with his own. That earlier identity may belong to someone else, possibly the charming Nefertiti. If true, it changes how the object is understood. Instead of being created specifically for one ruler, it may have been repurposed during a time of political transition. That kind of reuse wasn't unheard of, especially in periods of instability. The mask still holds its beauty, its presence. But behind that polished surface, there might be a story of adaptation rather than intention, and that makes it even more interesting. Number 14. Labacali Wedge Tomb. In Ireland, you'll find a lot of ancient burial sites. Seriously, there are a lot, but some are more mind-blowing than others. And Labacali is one of them. It's the largest wedge tomb in the country, built over 4,000 years ago. The structure is made from massive stone slabs, arranged with care and purpose. The shape is unusual, narrowing toward one end, giving it a distinct profile. Local folklore calls it the Hag's Bed, linking it to myth rather than history. Experts say it wasn't used just once, but over time it became a place of repeated burial that spans generations. That continuity suggests it held lasting importance. At one point, the remains of a woman were found there, which sparked speculation about its connection to local legends. But the timelines didn't match. Still, the stories remain, layered over the stone. And like many places like this, it exists somewhere between what we know and what people have always believed. At number 13, Giant's Land and the Pyramids of Shona. Every so often, you come across a place that makes you pause and question scale itself. In parts of Romania, there are sites that feel oversized, almost like they were never meant for ordinary people. Well, you can take the cave settlements, often referred to as Giant's Land, as a big example. These carved spaces stretch across a vast area, cut directly into rock with a precision that feels far ahead of its time. They date back to the Iron Age, and while early Christians later used them as temples, that doesn't explain who created them in the first place. Then there are the Pyramids of Shona, massive earth mounds rising nearly 100 feet high. Officially, they're tied to ancient burials, but the sheer size raises doubts. Why build something so enormous for that purpose? And locals have their own answer. They don't talk about kings or rituals. They talk about giants. It's easy to dismiss stories like that, but standing in front of these structures, the idea doesn't feel as far-fetched. Maybe it is possible that giants once existed? Number 12. The Holm of Papa figurine. On a small remote island off the coast of Scotland, archaeologists found something easy to miss inside the Holm of Papa Westray tomb. And actually it was. Because it's a tiny stone figurine, worn but distinct. It doesn't stand out because of its size. It stands out because of its face. The features are simple but deliberate, like deep eyes, pronounced brows, and a shape that feels almost expressive despite its age. It was found where people once laid their dead thousands of years ago, and that connection suggests it wasn't just decorative. It may have held meaning, something tied to belief, identity, or memory. What makes it interesting is how rare it is. Human representations from that time in this region aren't common. That gives it weight, not just as an object, but as a glimpse into how people saw themselves or wanted to be seen. It's small, quiet, and easy to overlook, but it carries more presence than you'd expect. Number 11. The hidden cities around Angkor. Wat Angkor Wat has always impressed people. It's massive, intricate, and almost overwhelming in scale, but for years, what surrounded it was invisible. That changed when researchers scanned the area using airborne laser technology. Beneath dense jungle, they found patterns. Well, not random ones, but organized layouts stretching for miles. What they discovered wasn't just a temple complex, and it was an entire network of cities, carefully planned and spread across nearly 800 square miles. Streets, structures, and raised mounds formed shapes that looked deliberate, even artistic. The temples survived because they were built from stone. Everything else, mostly wood, vanished over time. What remained hidden wasn't lost. It was simply waiting to be seen differently. What's harder to explain is the precision. Some of the layouts follow geometric patterns that feel almost too exact for their time. It forces a rethink. Maybe Angkor wasn't just an ancient religious center. Maybe it was something much bigger. But what? No one can explain. Number 10. The Dholavira signboard. In the ancient ruins of Dholavira, which is technically one of the oldest cities of the Indus Valley civilization, something unusual was found near what appears to have been a gateway. A large signboard, made up of symbols carved into stone. At first, it might not seem remarkable or rare, but when you consider its age, we mean around 5,000 years, it becomes something entirely different, something valuable. But despite knowing it, the symbols haven't been decoded. No one knows exactly what they say, but their placement suggests they were meant to be seen, possibly marking a building or identifying a place of importance. That alone hints at an early form of public communication. Dholavira itself was carefully planned, with organized streets and distinct sections for different activities. The signboard fits into that structure, suggesting a society that valued order and clarity. Even without understanding the symbols, their presence speaks clearly enough. And they were trying to say something. We're just not able to hear or even read it anymore. Number 9. The Benben stone. Ancient Egypt never lacked symbolism, but some objects carried more weight than others. The Benben stone, according to early records, once stood in the temple of Ra at Heliopolis. Each morning, the first rays of sunlight were said to touch it before anything else. That alone gave it a sense of importance, but its meaning went deeper than that. In Egyptian belief, the Benben represented the very beginning, the first mound of land rising from the waters of chaos at the moment of creation. It was tied to rebirth, often linked to the myth of the phoenix, a creature that dies only to return again. The original stone has vanished, but its influence didn't. The pointed tops of pyramids and obelisks were shaped in its image, carrying forward its symbolism. Some people saw it as a sacred relic. Others viewed it as a cosmic marker. Either way, it stood at the center of one of humanity's earliest attempts to explain where everything began. Number 8. The Chesterton Lane coin hoard. Well now, not every discovery comes from a grand excavation. Sometimes it happens in places most people would rather avoid. In Cambridge, archaeologists once lowered themselves into what was essentially an old sewer shaft. It wasn't good work, but it paid off. And let's say a lot. Hidden beneath layers of dirt and time was a small wooden container, barely holding together. Inside, they found coins. We're not just talking about old coins, but silver and gold, dating back to the medieval period. The amount wasn't enormous by today's standards, but back then, it would have represented serious wealth. Likely someone's entire savings. The way it was hidden tells its own story. Buried carefully, sealed off, and protected. This wasn't lost by accident. It was placed there with intention. And then, for some reason, it was never retrieved. Maybe the owner didn't survive. Or maybe they couldn't return. All that remains is the money and the mystery. Number 7. The Roswell Rock. The story of Roswell has never really gone away. Official explanations came and went, but suspicion stayed behind. Then, decades later, something unexpected surfaced: the Roswell Rock. Discovered not far from the original crash site, the object doesn't behave like an ordinary stone. Its magnetic response shifts depending on where you test it. One side pulls a magnet in one direction, while another flips it entirely. And that alone would raise eyebrows, but the markings on its surface make things even stranger. 2 crescent shapes appear carved into it, patterns that seem oddly familiar to those who've studied crop circles. Similar designs have shown up across different continents with no clear connection. Under a microscope, the rock offers no clues. There are no tool marks or obvious signs of carving. If it was made by someone, they left no trace behind. It might be nothing, or it might be one of those rare cases where the explanation simply hasn't caught up yet. What do you think about it? Okay, now let's move to number 6, Codex Tovar. Some historical records don't just preserve information, they reshape it in ways no one can explain, even after centuries. Codex Tovar falls into that category. Created in the 16th century, it was written by a Spanish priest but illustrated by indigenous artists. That combination alone makes it unusual. It's not purely European, and it's not entirely native. It sits somewhere in between, and seriously, we don't know where. The manuscript tells the story of Mexico's early peoples, tracing their origins and movements. But it doesn't come directly from them. Much of its content likely draws from earlier works that no longer exist, and that creates a layer of uncertainty. You're reading history, but it's been filtered, interpreted, and possibly adjusted. Still, it remains one of the most complete surviving records of its kind. Even with its biases, it offers something valuable, a glimpse into a past that might otherwise have disappeared completely. And as a wise writer once said, sometimes the imperfect records are the only ones we have left. Number 5. The ancient Taiwanese woman's skull. Sometimes a single discovery is enough to challenge everything assumed about a place. In Taiwan, the remains of a woman were found in a cave, dating back around 6,000 years. At first, it seemed like nothing more than another addition to the region's long history. Then the details started to catch experts' attention. Her physical features didn't match those of later populations on the island. They have done genetic analysis, which pointed toward connections far beyond Taiwan, linking her to groups found in distant regions. That raises a difficult question. Who were the earliest people here? Local traditions have long mentioned earlier inhabitants, stories often set aside as folklore. This discovery gives those stories weight. It suggests that the island's history didn't begin where we thought it did. And it leaves behind another question that hasn't been answered yet. If she was part of a population that once lived there, what became of them? Well, as we say, a lot of our history is still missing. Maybe someone did it with a secret purpose? Number 4. The mysterious Birdlike Greek statue. Well, at first sight, it doesn't seem all that remarkable. A small stone figure worn by time. But the longer you look, the stranger it becomes. Discovered in Greece and dating back around 7,000 years, the statue doesn't clearly represent anything familiar. Some see a bird, and some think it's meant to resemble a human form. We mean, it doesn't fully commit to either. What really stands out is the material. It's carved from granite, a stone so hard that shaping it even today requires proper tools. Back then, those tools didn't exist, at least not in any form we understand. That raises an uncomfortable question. How was it made? There's no signature, no clear cultural link, no matching artifacts to compare it with. It exists on its own, without context. And maybe that's what makes it unsettling. Not what it is, but how little it fits into what we think we know. Number 3. Naupa Iglesia. Hidden deep in the Peruvian mountains, Naupa Iglesia doesn't feel like a typical archaeological site. There's something about it that immediately sets it apart. The structure is carved directly into stone, with a level of precision that's hard to ignore. Smooth surfaces, sharp edges, and perfectly shaped recesses give it an almost engineered appearance. Now, one of the most striking features is a doorway carved into solid rock, except it doesn't lead anywhere. It's not broken. It was never meant to open. That alone has sparked countless interpretations. Some see it as symbolic, others believe it served a ritual purpose. A few have gone further, suggesting it might represent a passage of a different kind entirely. Adding to the intrigue, certain angles within the site align closely with architectural features found in Egyptian pyramids. Whether that's a coincidence or something more, no one can say for sure. What's clear is this: whoever built it knew exactly what they were doing, and they left behind more big questions than answers. Number 2. The Catacombs of Holm el Shoqafa. Beneath the surface of Alexandria lies something that doesn't belong to just one culture. The Catacombs of Holm el Shoqafa feel like a blend of worlds that somehow came together underground. Carved during the Roman period, the site combines Egyptian, Greek, and Roman influences in ways that shouldn't feel natural, but somehow do. Statues wear Roman clothing but carry Egyptian symbolism. Designs overlap without clashing. The catacombs began as a private tomb, likely intended for a single family. Over time, they expanded. More chambers, more burials, and more complexity. No one seems entirely sure why. Even the name comes from something unusual: piles of broken pottery found inside. Visitors in ancient times would bring food for the dead, then smash the containers afterward. It wasn't random destruction. It was a ritual. What you're left with is a place that feels layered, not just physically, but culturally. And that's what makes it so tough to fully explain. Do you have any theories about it? Want to share? Number 1. The Ipuwer Papyrus. Plenty of ancient documents speak about laws or victories, but some read more like frustration written down. The Ipuwer Papyrus is one of those rare texts. Instead of mentioning power and pride, it describes disorder. A man named Ipuwer speaks about a world turned upside down. It mentions wealth reversed, social order collapsing, and chaos replacing structure. The tone feels personal. It doesn't read like an official record. It feels like someone witnessing change and struggling to make sense of it. Certain lines have drawn attention over the years, especially descriptions that seem to mirror events found in other historical or religious texts. Well, that link has been debated, often without agreement. What makes the papyrus stand out is its honesty. It doesn't try to present a perfect image of the past. It shows uncertainty, confusion, and pain. And in doing so, it feels closer to something real than many polished accounts ever could. Well, what do you think about these ancient discoveries? Which one amazes you? Let us know. And in the end, as we always say, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.